All right. It's June 3rd. We're going to start our general operations meeting 7 minutes late. Sorry about that, folks, with technical difficulties. Mr. Chairman, could you do the invocation, please?
Father, we thank you for this day, this beautiful day that we've had to serve you. And quite simply, we just say that we hope that all our actions and our words and our thoughts are in obedience to what you would have to pray in that name.
I would like, without, if nobody has a problem with it, like to add an agenda item to new. It's the purchase of a truck and 2 drones by the EMA.
Would that be 9G?
Yeah, that would be 9G, yes. And so, if that's okay with everybody,
Motion to approve the
motion
agenda.
approved. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we have report of the chairman. I have none. Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of the minutes. Motion? Motion. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No report from the chairman, and I do not see the mayor, so I will assume we're not going to have a report from him either. Recognition of the public. I think the first was John McLaughlin. Chief, if you come up and address your name and address, please.
Joe McLaughlin, 2238 Highway 25, Cotton Town. I'm a retired Navy veteran with 24 years service. I'm a volunteer fire chief in Cotton Town. I've lived in Cotton Town for 37 years. I've had a front row seat to the flooding, both as a resident and first responder. From 1986 to 2010, I never saw water rise and cover the roads along Highway 25. Since 2010, there have been 4 flooding events where water has been across the bridge at Pug Hollow and shut down Highway 25. Flooding's gotten progressively worse. Water covers the highway in more spots, not only when it floods, but also during just plain heavy rain. Cotton Town Fire Station was isolated on May 8th. Responders couldn't get to the station. If they were there and called, they couldn't have gotten out. The water was up to the bay doors, and this affects resident safety. It's not just a problem on Highway 25. The intersection of Pug Hollow and Burford Branch has been washed out 3 times. The first time it just peeled the asphalt up. The last 2 times it washed away the roadbed to the point that it had to be backfilled before paving. It's not just flooding events, it's heavy rain also. Water regularly flows across areas on Upper Station Camp Road, PD Branch Road, Garrison Branch, and others. As a first responder, I've responded to school buses stopped by high water on Bug Hollow and Brinkley Branch roads. The issue is flooding. The question, what's the county going to do about it? In September 2022, the current commission inherited plans and actions from the past commission started relative to the flooding issue. You didn't like those plans. You responded to residents and supporters and voted to terminate a FEMA grant taking possession of a house that became known as the Draper House and the original Cotton Town Post Office, which was supposed to be moved. I'm okay with that vote. That's how the government works. But what about the flooding problem? It just didn't go away. In fact, the worst flooding I've seen in 37 years of living on Highway 25 occurred on May 8th. There was minor flooding on May 22nd. There was flooding again on May 26th. Water was across the road, Highway 25, impeding traffic. It was up in the parking lot of both churches. It was around the Draper House and Post Office again. That's twice in 3 weeks. We still have a flood problem. Now, 2 county-owned buildings that had a history of being flooded have flooded again. What's going to be done with it now? You can't get an accurate picture of the extent of the flooding unless you go and walk around the flood areas. 2 commissioners have been out walking in Cotton Town, and I thank them for that. I'm disheartened that more commissioners haven't been looking around. I'd be more than happy to talk and show commissioners around and point out problem areas. My comments have been specific to Cottontown, but it's not just a Cottontown problem. It's a county-wide problem and needs to be treated as such. So, what's the county commission going to do about flooding problems in Sumner County? The flooding will continue to get worse, destroying private and now county property, putting residents, county first responders, and responders coming in from other counties at risk unless action is taken. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Out of respect for the citizen speaking, I did let him continue, but there was just a lot of things stated in there that were just factually inaccurate, and I don't want it to be recorded as to what he said as true.
I plan on addressing those, Commissioner.
Well, yeah, I
I
wanted that stated right away. I'm still disappointed that it's being misinterpreted as.
Well, hopefully for the record, we will get that corrected.
Way on down the list, so I at least wanted to register that.
Okay, great. All right, next speaker, Charlene Onmiller.
Hi, I'm Charlene Onmiller. I live at 143 Williams, Tennessee, 72075. And I'm here to talk about the Millersville Fire Department and a comment that was made during the Health and Emergency Services meeting. A comment was made that the EMS has been in there rent-free, and so the county commission might as well pay to refurbish that building, even though it's not our building. And I will just point out that the Hensel Library is only half owned by the county, and to my knowledge, the county commission has never paid rent to the city for the other half that's owned by the city. They've never asked for rent, but I've heard a lot of discouraging comments go towards Hendersonville that they haven't been paying their due, but they also pay $60,000 in operating costs every year that could arguably be considered as minimizing cost and maintenance from the county. So if we're going to start saying that we need to start rebuilding buildings whenever we're occupying space that isn't owned wholly by us, then I think we need to start looking at all the places where EMS are, all the volunteer fire departments, and then I don't know why we're asking for Hendersonville to give over their half of it by trying to coerce them from maintenance costs whenever we're willing to just rebuild anything. The other thing I'd like to talk about is that I do understand that their costs are crunched, but the original bond for the parking structure did not include it to be paid parking. And so you might want to look at the terms of the bond to make sure that the change of use of that is not going to affect your bond terms. Also, I've heard a lot of people argue that Sumner County they don't want it to turn into Nashville, but the county commission would be considering to change that to a paid parking, and that would be the first government paid parking in this county. So if anybody is turning it into Nashville, it would be the county commission to change it into paid parking. And I do understand the cost of crunch, but maybe that's not the answer. If you guys can also look to see if it's legally feasible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes comments from the public. We will now go on with the old business. Status of county surplus database on pages 16 through 20. Our legal department has refined a lot of stuff that regarding the standard operating procedure of the surplus. I would like to ask Mr. Sigler to explain anything that he would like to address this.
Unfortunately, a lot of the items that we're getting are things from places like Highway and the Sheriff's Department, and they're under such a unique obligation in how they sell their property, and who's entitled to receive a lot of their property, and the idea of just an overall procedure for dealing with this property is slowly getting whittled away by these departments. So I'm still working with Mr. Tuttle to get one that we does it a certain way, either by law or by procedure or by agreement with other agencies. So that's where we're at with it right now, and that's where you'll see on, these budget agendas and some of the commission stuff, even though we've got this surplus we're trying to get implemented, stuff is still getting pushed through, like, I believe both the sheriff's department and, EMA may have a couple of items that are being pushed through, and some gov deals issues that are coming through as well.
Yeah.
That's where we're at today.
Okay, well, in our last meeting, we agreed to just go with the procedure that has been until we get this refined. I like what I'm seeing. I'm gonna study it some more at home. Are there any questions for Mr. Sidler? Okay, let's keep that on old business then. Item B, the roof and parapets of archive building architecture. 21 through 59 is the architectural agreement. In all honesty, I have not been through the whole thing with a fine-tooth comb. Mr. Sittler, can you address anything there that would be pertinent to this meeting?
Other than my review of the documents, I think that, we've already done that review, and it's on to its next phase beyond my department.
Okay, so understanding that, if Ms. Norfleet has forwarded this onto the architect, he will be proceeding with the specification for bid, I believe.
I'll be honest, once it leaves my office, I really hardly know what happens from there.
All right.
It's probably gonna need a PO of some type from
Right.
David, and then it'll work its way through.
Yes.
That way.
So if anybody wants to go through the contract and have any questions, I would say that we could address Ms. Norfleet separately or Mr. Loring. If there are any concerns, or Mr. Sittler, if there are any concerns about anything regarding the contract.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring up too, I thought,
We need a,
Oh, motion to
also,
suspend the rules?
no, we need to,
Oh,
motion for discussion, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Moss. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, go ahead.
No, there is some concern, from someone in the audience, tonight, that there was some more leaking recently. I think we just need to, stay on top of, there was some black mold found in a tile, and that's maintenance, I think, is over there.
Yeah, maybe
So I just want to make sure, is there something in there that we can address that, I mean, if there is some kind of underlying mold issue, that, can we get a test done? Because, I know sometimes it's, you don't test it, it can spread.
Yeah, I was not aware of it.
I just became aware of that this evening. I'm going to suspend the rules. If she'd like to speak, if the committee wants to hear from her, and she wants to speak.
Before we do that, you've inspected it, Commissioner?
Yeah, they had black mold.
Was it just a ceiling tile, or was it a whole air tile? A single ceiling tile?
Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Okay.
So that's,
replaced, were they removed?
Yeah, they removed and replaced.
Okay. I think we're so close to getting it through.
Yeah, but my concern is just, seeing that over the years myself, is to make sure it hasn't spread to other areas, because the health, if they're having breathing problems or any asthma or something, that can be an ongoing issue. So, I think if there's something in there, maybe just to put their minds at ease, they can maybe have someone check that out when they're doing the roof, maybe. I'm just, brainstorming to see if we can get somebody.
Yeah, I mean, when, number one, we're not doing the roof, we're doing the parapets.
Right.
The roof is fine. So Terry, could you tell where it leaks?
That's,
The leak in Julie's office, which is on, up there at left side,
Uh-huh,
next to the kitchen.
right next, yeah.
that's why I mentioned the roof. I was concerned maybe there was a leak somewhere that was going on.
That's right below the parapet wall. Yeah. That's what we're getting fixed. So I think we just, when they remove that, we can see if we can see anything in the insulation. I just, except for monitor it, I don't know that we can do a whole lot about it.
I just wonder if there's something that they can at least put their minds at ease. I don't know if we can get someone out there just to make sure that it hasn't spread anywhere.
Well, we've had somebody out there, I mean, I don't know.
You don't have to spread. I'm not putting on the spot. I don't know. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
That's what, you know.
what about the heat and air unit?
What about?
It's had a problem recently, and it's a geothermal unit, and it sits on the roof.
On the archive? This is all news to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this car, I just need to see, literally to see this information. So there's one out, it's not even turned on. It's dead.
Okay.
I don't know if it's supposed to be replaced.
Well, we can't do much about something we don't know about, so, I guess I can inquire with the mayor, about, so, how did you find out about this?
The mayor.
The mayor, okay.
I'm curious, where are the wells for the geothermal, where are they located on the property?
No idea.
I had no idea there was a geothermal unit up there. I thought they were all your standard electric.
My understanding was there was a part that went out, and it caused it not to be able to function.
Usually, a big deal of wells.
You know as much as I know.
And this building was built in the nineties,
Huh?
this building was in the nineties, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought they would put geothermal in.
Oh, yeah, we were doing some at school, but, the board education is partially on, it is on geothermal. And that
I know
football
some of the
field,
schools.
that entire football field beside Board of Education are wells in the earth there. Well, I'm just curious to know where.
All I know is there's a problem with one of the units,
okay. If you all are
and it's June.
in agreement with, I'll get into this tomorrow because this is all news to most of us. And I'll look at the leak and the potential of black mold at the same time. All right. So other than that, we should be bidding that soon to get any leaks that are left fixed. All right. There's no motion to make on this except to move it to keep it on old business. Unless anybody else has any questions for it. No? Okay. All right, moving on. See, update on new courthouse parking structure. The certificate of occupancy has been said to be 6/18/24, but I just want to put it on the record that the city has not moved the water line in Franklin Street yet. We cannot put in a storm drain until the water line has been moved. So I'm doubting we're going to get this done in 2 weeks. So if we don't have that storm drain, I'm not sure what the ramifications are, but I don't think we can open that parking structure until the filtration bank is active with the storm drain.
Can we get a statement from the builder on that, from the, project coordinator, that, whether or not we can occupy that without that filtration system in place?
I can,
Because the only real fear there is EPA not being happy with that, because everything will be functional. It's just if water washes across an oil leak from a car or something like
Right.
that. So,
I'll start with Josh Sutton tomorrow and, try and see where that takes me, but yes.
but the issue is we won't know an answer until July.
Okay. All right. I will take care of that tomorrow. Okay.
You
Items,
just send out an email saying.
Yeah,
what the status is.
I'll send out an email. Okay, item 2, under C is underground electric service and parking structure alleyway agreement update. Mr. Sittler, you have 66 through 92. How are we coming on that agreement with, Mr.
Actually, we had a good conversation today. If, I think we're in agreement on all the amendments and changes to the, agreement with GDE, so I expect to have that finalized by the end of the week.
Great, okay. Item 3, library parking progress on costs of signs and gate. I have to admit, I did not get my prices back from signage or the steel people. I will, try to get that done this week and send out an email as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir, open,
Motion to discuss.
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Did we not put that on the mayor to do out of his?
You know, that's what I had remembered,
Yeah.
but when I went back and watched the video, that's not the way it ended up.
How did it end up?
I was going to get, prices on signage and, talk to an iron fabricator on the gate and the fence. And that's one of the reasons I didn't get to it as fast as I should.
I understand the fence, but I thought the mayor said he had money in his budget that he would do the signs.
Yeah, but the way we left it is, he was not going to hunt that down and get prices, so.
Can that be something that can be done ASAP?
Yeah, I can-
Library taken care of before everything opens up?
Yeah, I can do that this week, and I can send out emails to everybody. Go ahead, Mr.
If
Sittler.
I may, Chairman, I'm starting to get emails from citizens that are upset about the parking thing. And
Yeah, me too.
this is a little unusual for me because there's really no response from my office that's required.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you like me to do with those?
We're getting them too.
Pardon?
We're getting them too.
Yeah, I'm getting them too. Yeah, I'm getting phone calls and emails, and so, we're working on it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'll get those costs this week. Like I say, I didn't get them because in my mind, the mayor was doing it. And then when I went back and watched the video last Thursday night, I think it's my responsibility. So
I'll just take it case by case.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
The minutes say that we moved this to budget, so why are we discussing it again?
Well, I just saw the minutes, for the first time.
So
Now.
if it's in budget, you're on that committee, you and Mr. Schmidt, y'all should be able to do
Yeah,
that.
well, what I will
And
do,
Ms. Miller.
what I will do is I will get prices and forward them to Matt Schoaf, and we'll get it on budget next Monday.
That should get it off our plate.
We should get it off our plate. Yep. Okay, any other questions for me? I'm sorry about that.
So we don't need updated
No,
on that.
no, and
Straight through budget.
if I get everything done the way I say I'm gonna get it done, then it will not be on the agenda next month.
Okay.
So, all right,
So the direction is to answer those emails that it's getting worked on through budget. Signage and again.
the plan is to send it into budget next Monday.
Okay.
So. Okay, and then item 4 is, the discussion of paid parking, and the only thing that we really needed to do was Mr. Sittler was going to do any research that he could regarding that.
The deed indicates the county is the sole owner of the property, and then there is a caveat that, I think it was and there was an easement agreement that was entered into after the transfer of the property. And as part of the parking garage, we are the Gallatin Church of Christ is to get 35, I believe, parking spots dedicated. Yes, 35 parking spaces for the sole benefit of the residents of Christian Towers. So that's what we're working with whatever you decide to do on that.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Can I have a second from Commissioner Miller? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'm not sure where to go with this. I know that Mr. Lawing, I believe, I think I'm remembering this right. Mr. Lawing was going to check in with some people who do this kind of thing, set up the machines, what it would take. Am I remembering this right, Chrissy? Yeah, that he was going to find out what it would cost to run this part of it, charging fees, and to man it, and the equipment to buy it is where I think we're at. I've received none of those costs. I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do from this aspect.
We have officially voted to make it pay, you know.
Well, I don't know, have we officially
I thought we
voted?
did at a previous meeting.
Commissioner Jones?
If you look at the bottom of page 3, on the minutes, it talks about we're exploring that, seeing whether ARPA funds were available to buy Gallatin's Park out. Where are we at with that? Did we look into the ARPA section of it? Was it that in the budget?
I think that was with Mr. Lawing, was
So
going.
that kind of going to drive everything with what we do forward. I know we voted to explore looking at making it a paid parking, but
I thought we actually voted to make it a pay.
Yeah, Mr.
like
Chairman.
there's some contingencies. I'll stall the queue, hang on a second. There are some contingencies with which we could do that, and the citizen mentioned some of it. And although, you know, I think her intentions for her comments were noble in trying to help the citizens. I do like the idea of letting the citizens that are going to use it pay for it versus all the citizens as a way to recoup money. That's where my head is with it. But it was contingent on a lot of things that we need answers to.
Yeah, and I think most of those were not coming out of this committee. Mr. Harrison?
Mr. Chairman, the top of page 4, you'll see that we moved the study of making this paid to the legislative committee. That's what Chairman Hyde is referencing.
Okay.
So,
all right. So really, it's out of our hands at this point. So we'll leave it as old business, just so that if we have anything to clean up at the next meeting regarding it.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
can you ask the status of that legislative? Did they get to it on their agenda, or did they?
I will get a hold of Chairman Mansfield and
I know he's out this week. but-
right. I think I can get a hold of him though, and see if there's any progress on it. Okay. All right. Moving along. Item D, update on the main chamber's AV system. I just spoke with Ms. Templeton, and she said that she has heard back from the contractor that we're going to be getting a sample 27-inch gooseneck and a sample 20-inch gooseneck to try out. They got flooded a couple of weeks ago, their facility, so they've been working from home, and been hard to get the sample pieces and even for her to talk to them. But she doesn't have a date to receive them yet, but that's what the plan is.
Would you tell them we don't want any of the wet ones?
Carolyn is here if anybody wants to ask her a question. I don't know that there's anything really to ask her. She's done everything that she said she would do, so.
I think this is a worthwhile approach, because I've heard a lot of positive comments to the sound quality of the last month's meeting, where people have been directed time and time again to speaking to the top of the microphone, and people have been angling it right.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on.
Does that need to remain old, or can it come on?
Well, it's a work in process, so I would say it should stay on.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Motion to discuss.
Okay. We have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I just wanted to add one more thing, and I want to be in order. Thank you, Commissioner Miller, for keeping us straight. So when those microphones come in, rather than sit here and wait for us to talk about it again, can we perhaps put them into some kind of action during a committee meeting between now and our next meeting, whenever they come in?
Yes, I think we'll give the 20-inch to Commissioner Boyd and the 27 to Commissioner Schoaf.
But before a committee meeting, before a commission meeting.
Yes, we'll
Possibly move a committee meeting there, hold a financial management or something like that, suggest that somebody test.
Yeah, the minute they show up, I'm sure Carolyn will tell me, we'll get over here and put them in.
I don't know if we need to have a suggestion coming on this committee to test them or something, or to get, IT to test them for us, or.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm sure the minute they show up.
All right, let me know when they come.
I will absolutely let you know.
I'm interested.
Okay, next item is the New Shackle Island Volunteer Fire Department lease. Our legal team has come up with a lease that I just read recently, and it looks pretty good. Mr. Sittler,
We really just wrapped that up, so I wasn't able to get it on a copy for you all to see, but it's almost ready to go. So,
Is this not it?
did y'all get the time? Yes, okay, great.
yes, Steve gave them to us.
Yes, that's it. It's basically, it's just revised with more language in here, and with just a couple of things I wanted to point out. 3199, 3179, I had to put both those addresses because it's been both. And we just made sure we indexed it against the tax card correctly, so that's all right. We're doing $1 a year, 0 months, but this renews on a basis until either party turns in notice terminated, so it can go in perpetuity. Or if something goes on, or you want to implement a new lease, you have an opportunity to do that after the first year.
Okay. Could I entertain a motion to discuss? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
We made some caveats for them being able to rent the premises, to include them ensuring that they get sufficient insurance coverage for the events. But my understanding the last time we talked about this was that you all wanted them to be able to do it as another income generator, but have as little input as possible.
Right.
So that's how I've drafted this.
Has it been reviewed with the fire department?
Not yet. We just seriously finished it. So pending y'all's approval of it, that's what's going to be my
This
next
will need to go to legislature for final approval?
Yes.
We move it to legislature.
We're still in discussion, so.
Pepper seconds. Are we going to get time to read through this, or should we just go off of his highlights of what changed?
Yeah, I think we could, I want to go through it further. I have one question. Mr. Sittler, does the county pay taxes on that building?
No, we're a county entity, we do not.
Okay, so landlord, I guess since we don't pay taxes, we'll pay all the taxes.
We're pretty good about that.
Okay, all right. That was one question that the one question I had on it. How should, to expedite this, and we don't necessarily have to expedite this, if we have any questions now that we're reading it, should we send them to you?
That'd be perfectly fine.
Okay, okay.
But I will tell you, if they are questions of changes to it, I'll have to get it back in front of you all as a group to approve it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, well, okay. Well, here again, we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
I don't read leases
Yeah,
very often, if ever, so I really don't. My question was just to give anybody else time to do it that wanted to have more time. I'm fine sending this to legislative for, people who think differently than I do to look at.
And we'll still have to approve it on the floor.
right.
So any questions could come up at that time.
I mean, I guess we got time to look at it, make an amendment between now and then anyways.
Yeah.
And if you do take a look at it, I would just ask that you all look at item 29, that it comprises your wishes on the special conditions, which is this renting issue we ran into with them. Other than that, it's pretty much a cookie cutter
Okay.
commercial lease.
Yeah.
We do have a motion in a second.
Okay. Are there any other questions for discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor of a motion to move it to legislative?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, okay, passes unanimously. Okay. Item F, results of meeting with State Fire Marshal and Millersville City Codes regarding the Bethel Road EMS facility. I would entertain a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I want to be clear, I was not indicating that we should overhaul the building. I was just saying that I would not have a problem of us funding in part the minor changes that need to happen.
Explain context
Okay.
from Health and Emergency Services.
Yes, I spoke, because there was some confusion as to what's being done out there and what was needing to be done. At this point in time, my experience tells me that in order to make those bedrooms sleepable, it's fairly minor. And so we don't have to tear the entire building down and then rebuild it. But we won't know that for sure until we get an actual building inspector out there, or the architect, who I plan on calling, because there is an architect of record that was working on that project in 2022. So I will call him tomorrow and see what it will take for him to do a full assessment of what's there and what needs to be done. So, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
So to keep this a healthy discussion, I'm going to recap what happened in Health and Emergency Services,
Okay.
to catch everybody up who wasn't there. The trailer that they rented, the camper that they've rented to go out there, has been out there for a month now, and the codes inspector that came through the building, and correct me if I'm wrong. State Fire Codes Inspector came through, spoke of the shortcomings of the building, but could not shut anything down because nobody was living in there at the time. But we do have our list of things that are out of compliance, correct?
No, we don't. He has, the only thing that's out of compliance, according to him, since nobody's living in the building,
Right.
is that the diesel generator, in his opinion, was too close
Right.
to sleeping quarters.
So the whole thing came to us with the statement that people were sleeping next to exhaust fumes coming out of vehicles. So they put a diesel generator next to the camper to run the camper with exhaust fumes pumping into the camper. So to fix that, one thing that was stated was that even if they put ingress and egress points, you have to have two of them, like adding the windows, like Commissioner Klein was talking about. You would still have to have a 2-hour firewall, right, between anywhere vehicles are parked and sleeping quarters.
That's not necessarily a given.
Is it not?
I mean, no, it depends on the classification of the building, and that's why you have to get an architect involved. Buildings have all kinds of different classifications that would require them to have a 1-hour barrier maybe, or a 2-hour barrier, or maybe a no barrier at all, maybe just a vapor barrier or a noxious gas barrier.
So the codes, the codes inspector we asked to go out there, that came out of this committee, right?
Well, we'd asked for two things. We wanted a building inspector to go out, which has not happened yet. And we wanted the state fire inspector to go out, because I was under the assumption that they had more strenuous rules from the state fire code. He told me today they don't.
So the building inspector is going to be the one that tells us the
primary, yes.
Okay, so we gave an up to 60 days rental for the RV. I don't remember if that was this committee or the Health Emergency Services or both. But they rented it, and now we're accruing costs of rental on this camper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking like there's going to be architectural fees and some kind of construction to fix our problem.
Mm-hmm.
And this RV is going to rack up the costs over the next several months. You might need to consider taking some action to remedy that. We're going to have the costs wrapped up in the rental fees as we would to fix the problem.
That's true. So.
This has gotten way out of control.
Yeah. Well, here again, we're doing some things on the come because we don't own that building.
Right.
And so.
Oh, and they canceled the meeting that was set up for some reason. We don't know why.
Yeah, what meeting was it? I didn't.
The mayor had a meeting set up with the Millersville city,
inspection?
Mayor.
Oh, the mayor?
Right, it was the mayor, right, Mr. Sumner? That sounds right. And they canceled for some reason on this issue, so I don't know, when someone needs to find out why that was canceled, but they're invested in this as much as we are. I mean, it's mutually beneficial, but we have to take care of our people.
Yeah, and we do absolutely. What, if nobody has an objection, what I was going to try to do this week is meet with, they do have a building inspector that he's a contract inspector. He's not an employee of the city of Millersville, from what I understand. And that I was going to contact the architect who has done some drawings of an expansion of that building and see if I can have an informal meeting with them and just discuss what they know about that building, because they have done some design work on it, and what actually has to happen to make those two sleeping quarters legal.
We need something to vote on, and we need options. So,
right,
whatever you can get done to get them to give us some cost-effective options, we've got to decide something rather than just leave that.
Right.
So, the other thing that came out of Health Emergency Services, we agreed to add a $2,300 plug connection that they're going to wire into the station so that the camper can be plugged straight into the station instead of running that diesel generator. That would get rid of that.
I'm going to look at that too.
So do we have to also pass that through as a committee, because you put it on both committees, or was it just? It was a mayor's request. It was in his report.
Mr. Sittler,
But he's not here.
what is our response? I mean, I know that you've said.
Let's just be safe and send it to them.
Well, it's not on the agenda, so I don't know what to do. We have to.
What's not on the agenda?
At 2,300. It wasn't on his. It wasn't on that agenda either. It came out of his mayor report. So
right.
It was a request, and we voted.
Right. So I know you've said in the past that our only concern at this point is to keep our county employees safe.
Yes, sir. And the only thing we actually have any control over those employees. What Millersville wants to do with their own building, that's their building. We can come in and make suggestions and offers all day long, but we can't touch that building unless they either tell us we can, or we agree to the terms with them somehow to help them facilitate the repair of that building.
Am I crossing some sort of a legal line by doing the due diligence of meeting with their codes inspector and the architect if he'll meet with me?
I'm not saying you're crossing legal lines, but you're crossing into, I guess, procedural areas where it doesn't matter what they tell you, it's not our building.
Right. But if I go and organize these meetings and have meetings and come back either to this body or to legislative or to budget with some findings, there's no problem here.
There's not, but you're gonna come up with what you think the resolution ought to be, and it doesn't matter what you think it ought to be, it's what Millersville needs to do.
So I'd probably be better off working with Millersville on it, or?
That's the only way I see this working, is you being handed Millersville this day.
Okay.
They go through this, and then I guess they can make whatever offers they wanna make and ask for any help that they want to ask for, but I really think it goes along with what the Commissioner was saying here, which is really you don't even have anything to vote on.
Right.
And we're entertaining repairs to a building we don't own. So with that,
Well, to solve the issue, it's worth it to me to spend the time to do it. So if I'm,
there's no legal
okay,
problem with it.
Commissioner Jones.
Commissioner Harrison, maybe from me.
Oh,
There is another alternative. Pull your people out until they get it fixed.
well, they are out, and
No, I mean, pull them completely out.
yeah,
Those numbers do.
yeah, that's true. That is
You
an
wanna keep,
alternative.
you wanna ultimately keep them safe, pull them out. And make them make their repairs to their building.
Mhm. Yes, that is an option. Commissioner Jones.
With that being said, coupled to what our law director said, it's not only our responsibility to keep our people safe, but it's also to do it in the most fiscally responsible way. And if somebody is not exploring choices of options for that, then Millersville's gonna do it on their own eventually and come to us with something. I don't wanna micromanage this, but I don't think it hurts for you to look at that if you're willing to, because you came up with a good option of just cutting 2 windows into the existing place, if codes will allow that. If you're willing to have these discussions about the options, then I don't think it hurts anything, but it definitely include Millersville in it, and, but then ultimately, they're gonna have to bring those options to us. Or you come back to us and say, I've talked with them, and they're willing to do either of these two, they prefer this, but they will do this also, or whatever we think we can get through committee.
Because they don't seem to have a building department that is functional at this point in time, and the guy that is the inspector is a
Brand new guy, right?
well, he's hired outside. He's not an employee. They really, in the meetings I've had with their fire chief and their assistant police chief, they really don't know where to go with this. They don't even know how to get started. So that's why I was going to help.
Well, and you mentioned that you got a lot of stuff on your plate. You willing to do this?
Yeah, I am, because it needs to get done. I don't want to keep that area uncovered with EMS. I don't really want to do what Mr. Harrison is talking about. I mean, if we're pushed into a corner, we may have to.
Right.
But if we can resolve this fairly easily, and either have them take care of it or we assist in some way, it's worth it for me to spend the time.
Do we know what the cost is?
No.
The rental, that's what I was.
It's on that same line. It needs to be timely,
Uh-huh.
because the longer we wait, the more rental fees, diesel fees, until, generator rental, diesel, now a plug, then there's the extra electricity. By the time we add up all of this, waiting on somebody to make a move, we could have come to an agreement, fixed it, and moved on.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know, it's a timely thing as far as I'm concerned, and they don't seem to be, unfortunately, Millersville doesn't seem to feel that way.
Right, and that's why I feel like I need to get into it this week. Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's that they don't feel that way. I just think they're spinning right now from all the turmoil they've had with
Yeah.
everything. But,
That makes sense.
I'd like to know, what Commissioner Harrison just asked. Do we know what the monthly rental fee is for that camp?
I don't. I don't know. I think the mayor might know. I don't know who ordered the thing to go out there, so.
I think I heard $1,500
A month?
per camper. I think that's what I.
Per camper? It's not one, right?
I thought they had ordered.
It's only
I-
split rooms, right?
I saw a picture of one.
Yeah, I think it's one with just his and her side.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll verify that when I go out there tomorrow. Yeah. So, I guess there's nothing to vote on. Commissioner Miller, did you have a comment that you wanted to make? No? Okay. All right, well, let's leave this on old business and move on. Item G, I was hoping for an update from the mayor on the Hendersonville Health Department and awaiting a Gantt chart from somebody, because I have no idea where we're at in design development or bidding or anything else. So I'll send him an email tomorrow and see if he can give me an update, and if he can, I'll send it all out to you.
Do we know where the mayor is tonight?
I don't. He was here earlier.
He's accepting an award from VFW.
Okay. All right, on to new business then. The Brown Park reversed the transfer of money, county money spent to date. All right, I gave you all an 11 by 17 of, and this is a work in progress, because I was still working with Beth Brown at 4 o'clock this afternoon, trying to figure out all the dollar amounts. But I'm going to do a synopsis here. To date, if you look towards the top in the 4th column, what we have spent is $192,009.78 on the park,
What part?
the Brown Park.
What have we got for that?
Okay,
Motion to discuss.
all in favor? Opposed, okay. We've got a lot of architectural and civil design. If you look in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the column, you can see who the vendors are, and almost all of it is Civil Site Design Group, RKB PLLC. So that's several months ago, we had somebody give us a dog and pony show, and I'm assuming that's who it is.
Back in December, I think.
It might have been even before that.
Yes,
Okay.
October.
So, in talking to Bethany, the monies paid to date have come out of 3 different accounts. The previous commission moved $100,000 from the Greenway Project Fund into the Liberty Creek Park Fund. And that mostly has been spent. I think all except $5,587.50. Then there was a fund account made with $125,000, and that was the matching dollar amount that the county had to come up with for the increase that the grant had. The grant was gonna be originally $500,000 and it went up to 625. We had the 500,000 from the will, and to match the grant, we had to come up with 125,000.
So where did that come from, the 125?
I don't know if that was done prior to our commission. I don't remember.
I don't know if that was, I wanna know if it was pulled from taxpayer money, or if it came from the account that,
I think it came out of,
the 500,000 account, or the
No.
tax fund account?
I think it came out of a capital projects account, I think.
So taxpayer money.
Yeah. And so then the third account is the government grant, the state grant of 625,000. So if you look to the right side of the sheet, you can see where the money, which accounts the monies have come out. And I haven't totally run all the numbers so that I haven't run them with Bethany Brown yet to make sure everything's exactly right, but it's close.
What's the third amount?
The third amount was 625,000.
No, okay.
Okay. So what's happening here is we've been having money spent on this park since 2020. The first date was June 30th, 2020. And then we started the next fiscal year. And so we've got 192,000 and change spent, and we've got another almost 29,000 encumbered. So we still have not received the $500,000 into a park fund, and I'm still at a loss trying to figure out what our responsibilities are with this park, if it's just the house, or if it's the 80-acre park or 83-acre park. I'm not sure what we're doing here, so that's why I wanted to bring it up, Commissioner Jones.
Out of this committee, we voted on, and we brought it to the whole commission. It was voted on. We wrote a resolution to tell them to transfer that money where it belongs to fulfill the will. $500,000 plus interest and any other match was supposed to be transferred. What has been done with that directive to the owners of the MOU that
I will leave that with Mr. Sidler.
After the resolution was signed, we sent a letter with a copy of the resolution to both, basically the trustees of the Technology Trust, which would be Dr. Langford and the mayor. And that is the last thing that has happened. I've received no response. We've received no money. It's just been silent. So I would be asking for guidance from either you or budget, I guess, to how we want to go about getting the money.
Well, we've got a job to do with that money, and it seems like the cart's getting put before the horse big time on this, because that house is a historic house, and we have no idea what it's going to cost to get that back in good shape, and that's where all efforts should have been focused on first, before any of the money is spent on this park.
Well,
It's the centerpiece.
here's what I've asked to be done. I've asked for the key. We have not received the key. And I have, just recently, there was another bill that got funded before I could stop it, for more architectural work, I think it was. I don't think it's on this spreadsheet, but it might be that $500 there. And I've asked Mr. Long to suspend any more expenditures on this park until we resolve who's managing it, who's building it, who's paying for it, because with that memorandum of understanding that was clearly not legal, we have, this is like a wild train going off the tracks. Mr. Chairman?
My questions are along the line of him. I think this is a
lot of them.
And then, yeah, there's a whole list here.
Other than permits.
For heaven's sake, $192,000. Who is authorizing this? Who has authorized $192,000 in expenditure? And who hired the civil site design group?
That's a real question.
It is a real question. It is a real question.
David Longs to be able to tell us that answer,
Well,
right?
in my discussions with Bethany Brown today,
Who is,
she is in David's office, and she's the one who sent me the original spreadsheet that I built this off of.
okay.
And I asked who allocated this money, and it apparently happened before we were in office.
The date didn't suggest it.
Well,
The date suggested it was mostly done during our term.
but it was allocated prior to
But the
that.
checks are being written.
Checks are being written, and
Who's signing, who's writing these checks?
I don't know. Like I say, I was working on this till about 4 o'clock this afternoon, so I'm not done, and I was gonna come down here tomorrow and work with her and try to get some real answers on how this money is continuing to be spent. And so that's why I've asked Mr. Long to stop writing any more checks, because we have to stop the runaway train.
But, where is their office? Who are their principals? Who is the civil site design group?
I can answer it.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
You're in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Does it list the principals?
Jim Harrison.
We got both.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
One no. Okay.
And the other question I think that we should, look at pretty closely is this 192,000, the, actual design work, or has actual physical construction gone on with site work?
No.
I'd like that question asked if you're dealing with people.
Okay.
Because if you take a percentage of what most, architectural firms, ask, with the school system, back in the dinosaur age, it was, usually about 6%. We could talk some of them down more if they got more than one school. But, that would indicate that we're not gonna have money to finish this.
No, we won't.
And they'll be coming to us for more hundreds of thousands of dollars to finish.
Right.
We'll have a plan, and that's all we'll have.
Yeah. And a house that probably needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jones.
You had made a statement a minute ago about you asked David Long, no more checks be written.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but checks aren't being written by his office, right? This is coming out of their fund, out of their MOU account that's got both the 500,000 and the
No.
8 million, right?
No, it's coming out of the 3 accounts that are specified on this sheet. There was an original 100,000. There's 125,000 that was the matching to the grant.
Right, I understand
And then
that.
it's the grant itself.
So the grant didn't get put into the trust?
No.
So they're not spending any of the money that
They're not
Mr. Brown gave for the project. They're spending all
other money.
taxpayer dollars, whether it be federal or local taxpayer dollars.
It's not federal, I believe it's state. Yeah, it's state.
Well, the state grant, that's right, it was a Tennessee.
State grant, yeah.
So, local or state taxpayer funds is all they're sinking into this.
Right.
That's
Commissioner Harrison.
definitely right.
I got a question and a possible follow-up. First of all, this is on the agenda. What is it that we're actually supposed to be dealing with? Is it just we're trying to decide where the money's going, and what exactly is the objective of putting this on the agenda?
The objective is try to find out what the heck we're doing.
Okay, so if it's just about the money, this committee, that's not in our purview. That's a budget item.
It's not just about the money.
Okay, so,
It's
but that's all we've been talking
It's about ownership of the park. It's about ownership of the house. It's about what's being spent on the park and or the house.
which is a budget deal.
Well, spending of the money is, but authorizing the spending of the
Is a
money.
budget item. Our job is to determine a need. And if our only objective is if the resolutions that have been passed, if the body's not happy with what's going on or not going on, you only really have only one other alternative, and that would be to sue. Otherwise, we're just kind of spinning our wheels here as to,
No, we're in charge of the property, Mr. Harris.
well,
And
but all we've talked about
if
so
there's
far has
building,
been money.
if there's building or design going on the property we're given authority over, then we need to find out what's going on.
And that's fine, but all we've talked about up until this point, 90% of it has been about the money. So that's my question. What's the objective about putting it on the agenda?
We want to find out what the money is buying and being put on our.
That's a budget item.
No,
Yes.
it's
Anything fiscal is a budget item. It needs to go to budget. And if that's what we need to do, we need to move on with it and move it on to budget.
okay. Question.
With all due respect, I gotta disagree a little bit. This is about our responsibility. It's not just about money. We've got a job to do, and we have not been allowed to do it because we don't have the money. We've been asking for the keys to that house for 6 months, and they should have been given to us a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago when we first took office. They should have been handed over to us, but because of all the entanglement of the illegal MOU that was signed, this money has been taken from the taxpayers and spent on a park with no results that I can see when I drive by there. So I think it's fair questions to ask what's been going on, and then it's fair also to ask why the directive that this committee gave hasn't been fulfilled yet. It's been an unanswered email or presentation of the resolution we signed that we need to demand an answer to, or the end result will be what Mr. Harrison said we have to do, is to sue to get back in compliance with Mr. Brown's will. I hate doing that. This is our own county looking at another arm of the county that won't cooperate with what we've been entrusted to do. I would think that they would work with us on this, and in the try to comply with what Mr. and Ms. Brown wanted to do. That this house is just falling apart. Probably has animals running through it and living under it, and who knows? We have no. It's boarded up. Everybody knows what happens to old houses when you let them sit. That one's been sitting for what, 8 years?
Something like that.
9?
Yeah.
17? Or
So, I think
7 years? 7 years? So we need to, something needs to come out of this body where we direct, I guess, the law director. So I make a motion that we direct the law director to pursue this more aggressively with demanding an answer. I hate to put an ultimatum on it, but what Mr. Harrison says is correct.
hang on.
I don't know if this is appropriate enough, but maybe make a motion to send the money part back to budget so we can look into what's going on with it, where we have the finance director at the table and question him, with the money, because we're dealing with a lot of money here.
I think we can make our own motion to come out of this committee to direct the law director with what to do.
Okay, well,
If I could make a suggestion.
sure, go ahead.
If you're gonna have, before I get involved in potential litigation, I think it'd be better if there was some sort of motion that I work with finance to see what the this point because it is truly a property and numbers game here. And I don't want to do anything that creates problems for the finance director.
Okay.
But legally, there does need to be a full stop on everything. And I don't know that telling David Long to stop writing checks is gonna stop them from writing checks for the money that they have, that they shouldn't have. They could easily go into spending that money.
Yeah, well, I think Mr. Sittler's suggestion is a good one. And because I've been working on the finances, I'm sure I'll be involved in it as well. Mr. Chairman?
I would like, for $192,000, I would like to have a copy of the product. We were always presented with portfolios, of the work done. I want a copy of the product.
A Gantt chart,
$192,000.
like where they're at now, like a Gantt chart.
You mean like a
Presentation,
presentation?
what they have accomplished.
Okay.
One of them's on Liberty Creek.
All right, well, if we haven't, I'll bring us back into session. Okay, I think we have to take a strong stance here. We need the key. We need to get into the building. That's a property that we're supposed to be managing, and we can't even get into it. We need to put on the pressure for the $500,000 and interest that needs to be put in an account that we have control over. And we do need to have Mr. Sittler work with Mr. Lawing on the things that are prudent to do so that we can avoid the lawsuit at all cost. Not at all cost, but as much as possible. Commissioner Jones.
So another question, so these funds that are being, these accounts that are being drawn off of, David Long is cutting checks off of county accounts for
That have
school board,
these are accounts
for
that
trustee actions.
these are accounts that were set up to my understanding, previous to this commission being installed. So
not only are the trustees over their own accounts, they're over this also. This is another pot of money.
well, I can't say that for certain. I can't say that the mayor or Dr. Langford is authorizing each one of, I'm fairly certain they're going through Tim Northwood.
Well, sure, but they're writing a check on their behalf. David's office or Mr. Northleaf, one if somebody is writing a check on their behalf.
Yeah, well,
Is that? I just don't understand how that works.
well, and like I say, that's what I was getting into today. I mean, I spent 3 or 4 hours on this today, trying to understand the movement of money and who was doing it, and I'm coming up with a lot of loose ends.
Well, that leads to my next question, which is that $500,000 plus interest was dictated to go from the Brown family to the county. The other $8 million went to a trust, so that's 2 different accounts, one run by the county, one run by the trustees. And then this match came along to get the $125,000. That's taxpayer money. It didn't go into that account, but it went to this other account. Should we? Does everything that mirrors that $500,000 or $625 come to the same place? I believe it should if it was for the park.
If I may, I believe we're kind of walking down Mr. Harrison's road here. I think you all can make a request to budget to investigate this.
But this cleans it up to where, what I'm saying,
But
yes,
it's
we
still-
gotta
it's
give
still
directives,
budgetary.
yes, we gotta give the directives so that they understand what we're going after here is cleaning it all up to where there's only one person writing checks one entity spending the money, and it should be the entity that was designated from the beginning, and that MOU needs still to be cleaned up. So do we do a motion for law director to,
I think that's the prudent
Press.
thing to do, because they may come back and say, you need to unallocate it. Or, I don't know what all options we have open to us, but they'll be able to figure that out.
well, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the law director to press them once again for, the funds, the key, and, also at the same time send us up the budget to iron out. If there's a more eloquent way to put that, I'm open to somebody amending it.
I just had a motion to send it back to budget to take a look at it. I want more money in it, for a money part. I don't know if you want to, unless you want to lump everything into one, if that's what we're doing.
Okay. Can, Mr. Sittler, can you refine that down to something that's simple and?
Mr. Chairman, point of order, you've got two motions on the floor, and then one of them have a second.
Well, you made a motion?
I did, but if you want, y'all want to amend it to something,
Okay.
I just, but this.
I thought maybe the two of them were maybe coming together to something, but then we divvied off, so.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely two separate motions. I wanted to have more teeth in it to where he actually does go after that key again and to press them on switching that money back over like we directed them to 2 months ago.
Okay,
And go to budget.
we got two motions in those seconds.
I'll second Tim's motion.
Okay, you'll second Tim's motion, okay. Then, getting back to refinement of the motion.
Are you making budget a separate motion, or are you including?
No, I'm the same. I want you to take all three actions.
Well, you just start with the word budget. What do you want budget to do?
To iron this out, which monies need to be, come back to us. But you got three accounts here. I think all this needs to be wrapped into one. The 500,000 original, the match that should have gone with it, it all should follow the same place where one person is writing the checks and one person is spending them.
Who's gonna convey this to the budget? I don't have authority or latitude to tell the committees what to do.
Well, then we send it up with that while he also goes with our original request for the key one more time. We have not got an answer yet.
Okay.
I want them to say, okay, or go pound sand, one or the other, but not ignore it.
I think the safest thing to do is to do two motions. One is what you want me to do, and the other is what you want budget to do.
Okay.
Okay, I'm clear on the key, and I'm clear on the $500,000 in interest. What I'm not clear on is what you would do to David Loing, with David Loing you had mentioned something earlier.
I would just make sure any path I take doesn't create any trouble, because I do know there's an MOU out there. I'm gonna need to pull it together.
Okay.
And there was one other item the disbursement of the funds themselves. All this money may not be coming from the county. Some of it could be coming from the trust. Some of the money could be coming from the school board. I don't have a clue, and maybe that's what budget can clean up for you.
Yeah, well, and from my understanding in conversations today, it's all coming from the county, and it's coming from either the grant, the $625,000 grant, or it's coming from one of two other. Actually, the $100,000 only has $5,587 left in it. The other one is got more. I'm not sure at the moment how much, 61,000 or something. So the big one is the grant amount. So, I think legal needs to work with financial to unravel this rat's nest that we're in right now. So I don't have an eloquent way of putting it.
Well, then I'll get with David, and then since that's his bailiwick, I'll let him get that on the agenda through
should the motion be to instruct you to go after the key, go after the money and the interest, and research this with the finance office from a legal standpoint? Is that the appropriate way to put it?
That's how I wanted it. He wanted it too. Is it okay to leave that all together? That'll be fine. I'll take care of everything. I know what you want.
Okay.
The crux of it is we got one project and 4 pots of money that are getting spent
Right.
out of it.
Right.
I'd like to amend my own motion also and ask the law director to pursue dissolving that MOU.
Okay. Is the second okay with that? Okay.
Because unless that's gone, they're
Okay.
always going to stand on that even though it has no standing.
Is there anything else we need to cover before the vote?
Yeah, can you restate all of that?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Before
so
we go on?
this is, as I understand the motion is for me to contact the trustees for a key to access to the house and to provide the county with the $500,000 plus interest that should have been dispersed to the county originally. Part 2 is to get with the finance director about steps to get this on the agenda to parcel out where the money's coming from. And item 3 is to get all the information necessary to dissolve the current MOU.
Okay. Everybody clear on it? All right.
And this will go on the budget also.
Yes, and we'll get it on budget this month. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No, 1 no. Okay. All right. Passes. Got a couple easy ones here, I hope. The Sheriff's Department auction vehicles on page 128, which if I'm not mistaken, is a few cars.
I've got
It's a bunch of cars and a couple of motorcycles.
do we,
You just sending them on to auction?
most of the discussion.
Okay. We have- All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You said page 129,
28.
128?
Yep.
That kind of answered my question a little bit, but do we know the criteria for when they retire these vehicles?
I don't.
I mean, 52,000, oh, wrecked in total, okay, wrecked in total. Do they not use motorcycles anymore, or 16,000 doesn't seem like a lot?
Yeah, I don't know why they retired them.
Because they're 15 years old.
That's what I was wondering, 15 years old might be maybe get what they can now.
My bike is 20 years old and has 32,000 miles on it.
Well,
I'm guessing since maybe it's used in line of duty and stuff, maybe they just,
I like cars, but they don't leave them running.
yeah.
It's totally different. I know citizens would like to know that. They may have a really reasonable explanation as to why. I'd like for them to explain that just for transparency to the public, why they pick a certain point of mileage. And I know certain things on cars, they have like law of averages on certain vehicles. Certain things start to go out. It's not worth it to
yeah,
fix them all the time.
they've got a area of reasons, you know,
Right.
head
Right.
gasket leak, steering gear, water pump, tires. You know, some of them just look worn out. And they're older, and, yes, sir.
I would make a motion to group and approve B and C.
We have a motion to group and approve D and C.
if they could give us some kind of explanation on the next time that they actually visit a committee, like HMS or something like that. It's just a point of interest. So I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Harrison and a second by Commissioner Moss. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. So we can take those off and move them along. Item D, security cameras in new parking structure. In his email to me, the mayor indicated that JPA had neglected to include them in the design criteria. I'm not sure if it was JPA or ESA who is the architect of record, but regardless, they need to be put in.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
How much is that gonna cost JPA to buy cameras for our garage? Is it supposed to be turnkey?
I have no idea.
Why is no one doing that?
The amount?
Oh, they're asking us to pay for it.
Yeah, because it was not included in the specifications. It's the gift that keeps giving.
A functional garage for a courthouse did not include security cameras.
Correct.
They're great at writing contracts, aren't they?
Move to approve and send it to budget. Gotta have them.
Yeah. Is that a motion?
What's the amount?
Don't know. That budget will
They'll
happen.
have to get bids.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, the needs there, clearly.
we have a motion.
Second, we need it, I mean, we have no.
Yeah, I don't know that we have a choice. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Cottontown flooding, item E. Commissioner Jones and I spent about 4 hours there Friday because the outcry from the public has been strong enough, not in just Cottontown flooding, but the flooding around the county. And so it's been seemingly neglected for many years. And in talking to many citizens who grew up in Cottontown, the problem is seeming to be getting worse, as the chief indicated a little earlier. So we discovered a lot of things, and Tim has got videos and pictures of this particular creek is not a creek at all. It's a nuisance drainage off of Highway 25, and now it's got asphalt from the parking lot of the Cottontown Baptist Church. There's riprap that has fallen down. There are trees that are blocking the waterways, and those are some of the many reasons that we're having problems here, and assuming many other places. I wanted to clear one thing up, though, regarding the FEMA. What we have been accused of as a county commission has been quite unfair in the past 2 weeks regarding, who's at fault here. I know that there are elected officials who have attacked us in Chamber of Commerce meetings, at the state Senate level. There's been tons of social media, attacking us, and in direct response to the fact that we're trying to salvage historic buildings in Cottontown, namely the Draper House and the old post office. So if there was even a chance that those two buildings had caused a flood, it would be one thing. But the fact is, they haven't even caused the flood. They couldn't possibly. The flood that happened up at the Baptist church that ruined their parking lot is 20 feet in elevation higher than the flow line of Station Camp Creek. So the only way that the one could have affected the other is if there 20-foot lift of all the water that affected the Baptist church. That clearly didn't happen. But what did happen was there are either, like this culvert right here could get blocked, or simply overwhelmed by the amount of water coming down. So the hazard mitigation assistance grants that have been the subject since 2 years ago almost, I want to just read that for the record so that everybody understands what was tried to be accomplished through the FEMA hazard mitigation grant and what wasn't. FEMA's hazard mitigation assistance provides funding for eligible mitigation measures that reduce disaster losses. Hazard mitigation is any sustainable action that reduces or eliminates long-term risk to people and property from future disasters. Mitigation planning breaks the cycle of disaster damage, reconstruction, and repeated damage. Hazard mitigation includes long-term solutions that reduce the impact of disasters in the future. This mitigation grant was specifically to buy out the owners of properties that had been flooded at least 3 times and give them a fair market value.
In a 10-year period.
In a 10-year period, 3 times in a 10-year period. And what happens in this case is if FEMA accepts the criteria, then they will give the owner of a property fair market value, and that is subsidized by FEMA to the tune of 75%, TEMA 12.5%, and Sumner County 12.5%. So it's a benevolent action by the taxpayers to help a few people out of troubles. And, you know, the people who lived in the Draper house have been flooded. The people who lived around the general store that is now demolished and the house behind it. These are all part of it. In no situation has the hazard mitigation ever said in any way, shape, or form that it would stop flooding. It is just helping people out of a hard place with their real estate and their lives in the case that it could be flooded. This was reiterated by the mayor when he sent a document to us on April 27, 2023. The FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is designed to help citizens reduce or eliminate long-term risk associated with natural disasters. Local governments are tasked with the administration of the grant process for the property owner who seeks relief from the effect of the natural disaster. The grant requires quarterly reporting and is reimbursable based on the county properly executing the terms of the grant. The property owner must voluntarily petition the local government for the relief and provide evidence to qualify for the program. The grants are limited following a major federal disaster. Declaration and acceptance may be competitive statewide. The structure of the grant is FEMA pays 75% of the qualified expenses, TEMA pays 12.5%, and the county pays 12.5%. The citizens of Sumner County have utilized this program on numerous occasions to help offset losses due to floods. So, if we can put that one to bed, the Draper house and the post office had nothing to do with the flooding on the opposite side of the street regarding Cottontown Baptist Church, Cottontown Church of Christ, or any other buildings on that side of the street, because the water was not raised 20 feet by blockage in Station Camp Creek. So, what we have started, Commissioner Jones and I have started, is he has started making phone calls to the Army Corps of Engineers and to FEMA, or not FEMA, to TDEC, to see what we legally can do to maintain these drainage courses all the way from both sides of Highway 25 and to what we can do in Station Camp Creek. We're still trying to find out all of did provide, he did get a document from Army Corps of Engineers, and it's pretty clear from that reading that we can clean along Highway 25 if we so decide to do so. But one of the questions that would have to ask Mr. Sittler is that even our jurisdiction, or is, because that's a state highway, how do we go about, if it's a state highway, can we even, is that outside of our ability to clean anything?
There's, TDEC's also gonna have limiters of what you can do to streams and stuff as well, so.
But these, for instance, along 25, that is not a year-round running stream. And the Army Corps of Engineers has specific language that talks about nuisance water versus a vibrant running stream that runs year-round. So we're looking into that. My question would be, do we have to instruct the state or petition the state to do the work? I mean, we've got trees with trunks this big that are causing damming effects.
I got something to say.
Could we have a motion to discuss?
Yeah, motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
So, I called U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I've called TDEC, and what this commission's been told, what this committee's been told on numerous occasions by the mayor, and hearsay from the previous mayor, and hearsay from the previous commission, is that we cannot clean these streams out that are flooding without a permit. That is not true. There's a lot we can do without a permit. There are conditions that cause you to have to pull a permit, and they're basically, to summarize, anything below the ordinary water line, the ordinary high water mark, has to be carefully looked at. You can't pull a tree out of the bank. If it's in the bank, it's going to alter the course of the stream. You can't dig the bottom of a creek. You can't push with a bulldozer anything with sediment or rocks or structures from one part of the creek down the other part of the creek, because that's considered dredging. You can absolutely go in there and scoop out something that doesn't belong there. You can absolutely go in there and scoop out a landslide that's happened that has filled up the middle of the creek, as long as you don't go below the natural barrier of the bottom of the creek. Anything that would require a permit that we feel like we with us on, and the permit process can be lengthy, sometimes up to 30 days, but they said as long as we are abiding by what the permit says we're allowed to do, or stay away from the one parts we're not allowed to do, that we can actually start work while the permit's being processed, so that it doesn't hinder us either. So there's been a lot of statements that were not true that has handcuffed this commission from helping the community that's been asking for it for several years. And I want to see what we can do to get it done as fast as possible. Some areas where we may be able to help get the state to assist us, I don't know if some of you saw when I was trying to highlight while Mr. Chairman was speaking, there's areas where part of the highway is going to fall off in that creek. If you saw where it's getting undercut by the floods, where there's asphalt that's actually clipped out like that, or truck runs on the side, it's going to fall in. So maybe we could get TDOT out there to help us with some of it. But I don't know if some of the areas we use things that we have at our disposal, like just asking for the highway department maybe to help us with, because they have the machinery, or where we go from that. But letting the citizens know that cleaning out their own creek is not out of the question. I feel like we've been scaring people into not doing the proper thing. There's places where trees have grown next to that driveway. I don't know if you saw that shed that was in the middle of the creek. That was from the neighbor that was about 100 yards away, and it had flowed down to that point and gotten lodged. and then there was a ladder and a slide and everything else. And then there was a previous driveway that was cut next to a current driveway that was decades old and since gone, but the concrete is still there in the middle of the creek with rails going across it. And there's a tree has rooted itself right there on that wall. The tree looks probably 30 years old. And stuff like that can be cleaned up because it's actually hindering the flow of the water. So there's a lot we can do. It's just about how to do it. But mitigating the flooding was never part of the TDEC grant. It was supposed to alleviate the people that couldn't do anything with their property because it was worthless and being flooded sometimes. But it's interesting to me that it was 3 times within a 10-year period was the criteria. It's been 14 years since the flood of 2010. When did all this junk get lodged in the creek, causing some of these problems? Was it back in 2010? We haven't cleaned it since, and therefore it keeps on flooding. Perhaps we should have looked at this a long time ago, cleaning out creeks. We identified a few key spots that probably need to be checked anytime there's a major flood event. Yeah. And then one big gravel bar that's been displaced in the middle of actually Station Camp Creek, right in front of the bridle house, that is probably splitting the creek waters and causing them to rise and bust out of the banks. That can be taken care of.
We saw where the residue had flooded around the bridle house. It was inches from the floor.
People said the bridle house didn't flood, but it came darn near close. It got probably because it was enough distance away from the creek is the only reason why it hasn't flooded. But for some reason, those properties haven't flooded in 200 years that they've been there, and all of a sudden they're flooding all the time now.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Chairman, you had a question?
I'm not speaking with any authority on this because I'm not an engineer. But I am very suspicious of the fact that I think, and we're talking about in the last several years, we've magnified this problem. I'm suspecting that overdevelopment in that area is a major problem with this, because when you do things like we did with engineering that campus at Station Camp and all of the parking area and the development of the buildings, that water has got to be designed to go somewhere. And I can tell you where it's ending up. It's ending up in these creeks, the watershed for these streams and the areas down lower. And I don't know how on earth we ever control that, but I really suspect that the major problem, or a major problem, is overdevelopment, which leads me to wonder if we could not, as a county, and if we can, maybe get the state legislature to help us levy some kind of fee against developers who are in these watershed areas that would be throwing water downstream on people. If we could levy some kind of fee to help correct these problems.
Well, what I have asked our engineering and planning people to do, they have very good working relationships with TDEC and to some degree the Army Corps of Engineers. They're going to solicit help from them and do some of the research that Commissioner Jones has been doing as well, what exactly we can do. We've been looking up different things from different county mayors and things that would give us an indication of what might be possible. And really, the only thing I can see in Station Camp Creek is the island of gravel and rock and trees now growing out of it that's literally blocking half of Station Camp Creek. I think that's why the bridge at Highway 25 goes underwater with every major rain now. If we can clean that island out of there.
How old do you think that island is based on the age of the trees that are on it?
10, 15 years, right around there. Could we have a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend.
And second, anybody? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
How many
driveways are put in on the state highway, like Highway 25, they're supposed to be a permit, and the state doesn't enforce it. People will come along and just put in a culvert. It doesn't meet the state code. They approved a lot of houses up on the hill at Franklin Road. Well, the creek there, drainage ditch, whatever you want to call it, is about 20 feet across. And then the pipe that they put in is about 10 feet across. That's a problem. The runoff coming down that hill is a problem. And also coming out of driveways. I mentioned there's a lot of water going across the roads just from normal rain, and it's coming out of driveways. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
We just heard several explanations from this committee and from citizens as to why this flooding is happening, yet there's still a post out there on social media that blames us for the flooding, for not fixing it with money that was not actually ever made available to us. It's just very disheartening to hear. She's a liar. No.
So, okay, so anyway, yeah, let's bring it back in session. I don't know if there are any motions to be made here. I would keep pursuing the road I'm going down with what we can actually do effectively to at least clean out as much as possible.
So you're getting, Mr. Sutton to look into it with TDEC also.
Yes.
I'll talk to him about what I found out with him. I'll share the contacts I've got and email a list of contacts for the National Field Office of Army Corps of Engineers and TDEC that they can talk to with them. But we still have to come up with a, I don't know that but the commission somehow needs to come up with a plan to help our citizens going forward for the next time it floods. Is that our highway department, because I've been told by somebody that they have oversight over culverts and any kind of thing that passes under the Highway 4 waterways. Can we push it up the highway committee to have them put that on a checklist, the key points to look through? Because I know there's one tree lodged in one we saw that needs to be dragged out. Is that highway committee?
Yeah.
Is that highway department?
And those are all.
Somebody's got to do the work.
Yeah, somebody's got to do the work.
Mr. Chairman, and I understand what Tim is saying, but I feel like that we're looking at correcting what has happened instead of what is the problem, what is causing this. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't help where we can.
Right.
But the problem is great. When it rains like it did the last few weeks, the flooding in for instance, the northern part of the county was tremendous, all across the north. Are we going to start cleaning out creeks and streams all over the county? We will have to triple the size. Well, we'll maybe do this, but keep in mind we must look at what is causing the thing that we're trying to clean up and get to the root of that. And keep in mind also, the highway department is stretched.
Yes.
And they're not going to have equipment, and I doubt TDEC will either. They are not going to have the equipment to get out there and do all of the flooding area of this county. And we cannot send it to the highway commission and say, have this cleaned up. Several years ago, the state legislature abolished highway commissions, and only by choice of the counties if you wanted to keep one as an advisory group to the superintendent. We cannot tell the road superintendent one thing to do with the highway department. He is totally independent of the highway commission.
Well, one thing I was going to do was I was going to get a hold of the state highway department and meet them out there. I see Cottontown as a template maybe, because it's a very compact area that's got some really big problems, you know, notwithstanding your situation down on Long Hollow Pike. I mean, we've got places all over this county, and if we can figure out what's going wrong in Cottontown, it may give us an indication of what's going, you know, down at Lower.
So we need to do is figure out what is going wrong.
Right.
Along with trying to mitigate the problem, but we need to find out if big culverts are bad engineering at sites or overdevelopment. We need to figure out what's
all of that, all of it.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think anything's out of the question, not that I want to see this happen, but in California, what they have done is had holding dams that most of the time don't have any water in them, but when they get a flash flood, and they get flash floods out there, it's a reservoir that holds it for the time being, not unlike Old Hickory Dam is a reservoir to control the level of Cumberland River. Commissioner Jones. Oh.
I was just gonna mention that besides Cottontown, I know on Long Haul Pike, there's a lot of issues like New Hook Road, New Shackle, like, man, it's just that when the creek jumps the bank, it's gonna go into some houses, it's gonna flood whatever,
Right.
so,
I know your folks live in a flood
they
zone.
do, and they definitely live there, but it's still,
Well,
it's happening more frequently than it ever has, and it's way more water that's coming.
and it's not gonna go away by us sticking our heads in the sand, so now's the time to strike.
So, there needs to be tightened up measures on the approvals of these projects for sure. I mean, an example is where they put the sewer for Liberty Creek behind, Commissioner Holmes' house. All that area was flat as can be. To me, it looks like it is settled, and it's actually a little bit lower than it used to be, because now there's standing water across that whole swath of property where they filled it in and planted grass and everything. That is the last area to get the water to evaporate off of it. The ground just cannot absorb it fast enough. It's right beside that creek. As far as creek disturbances, we need to stop building or doing anything on the side of the creeks. There was one, for instance, that TDEC mentioned to me that although the retention pond requirement for certain builders was set at a certain level, some city councils can override that. And somebody approved one, I don't know where it was, I can't remember what he said, but it was like a third of the size of the one that was suggested. And the city council voted and approved it, and let it go through. That should be state requirements, not city council's requirements to do stuff like that. But things like that are going to cause flooding. These issues got to be looked at harder on the front end, but then on the back end, like with this sewer project over by our house, inspect it a year later and see if the ground is settled. Is it holding water now?
Yeah.
The area that we approved to build like 3 or 4 houses right behind your house over there on the corner of Liberty Creek, it's like a wetland over there now. I don't see how they're going to build.
It was 5.5 feet tall.
The water?
Yes, I had 18 inches in my basement and had to go over a 5-foot retention wall.
So what maybe wasn't a floodplain in the past is now a floodplain. I don't know if it's a floodplain or not, but we just approved to put houses there.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I don't know how we tighten these things up except for include our planning commission in these notes or show them our findings, but the simple things are to create a checklist, and I'm not saying necessarily give Mr. Ellis marching orders, but just ask him for a few key checkpoints to check on some of these culverts, you know, as he's driving around, because for right now, just for one instance, that one tree we saw on that culvert, who goes and yanks a 30-foot tree out of a culvert that's wedged in lengthwise? Who pulls that out?
Right.
Is that the highway job? Who does my constituents, or not my constituents, who do they call to get that done?
Yeah, I don't know, but we need, you know, we're the ones that need to figure this stuff out. So the last thing I want to do is start another department for maintaining, you know, waterways in the county. But we can't expect the citizens, you know, to fix my business partner's got a driveway, the stuff that's plugging his culvert came from way upstream. Well, he probably will go out and try to clean that out himself if it's not unmanageable for him. But this is probably an area where government should do it, and the taxpayers will be grateful that they did. I don't know what all the answers are, but what I wanted to indicate in this meeting was that we have to do something. We have to do something because millions of dollars are already being lost because of damage, and we can't. We've just got to do something. So I don't know that there's a motion to make here. If anybody's got an idea to make one, I'm all ears. But what Commissioner Jones and I are doing at this point in time, I would welcome anybody else on this committee to help out with, because there's a lot of phone calls to make, there's a lot of meetings to have, and there's a lot of work to be done. So if somebody has a motion, that's great. If nobody does, we can move on to Hendersonville Library.
I'm gonna talk to, Toby Ellis, I guess,
Okay.
to ask those questions on what he can take care of, and maybe he can make some phone calls to the state on some of that highway section that looks like it's gonna fall off into the creek.
And that's who I was gonna talk to,
Okay.
the State Highway Department, and get a meeting with them there on
But he
highway.
may be able to get that meeting quicker.
He might, because he knows all those guys, so.
So is this dropping?
No.
Um,
I can ramp back to see where we are next month.
Okay, let's put it on.
Citizens are gonna wanna be interested in
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get, well, I mean, we're getting feedback now, we're gonna really get some feedback after this meeting probably. Okay, moving on to item F, Hendersonville Library quitclaim, deed. I think, Mr. Sitler, we're looking at you on this one.
Yes, sir. This is a pretty standard quitclaim deed, however, it does have one reverter that if it discontinues its use as a library, that it revert to its original 50-50 ownership. I was not able to move this quicker because I had a request that I look into the MOE for the library in Hendersonville. Somebody had been told, a commissioner had been told that there was a possibility that Bowman was going to drop the MOE. I have talked to the city attorney. He said he does not know where that came from, and to his understanding, MOE will continue as it has. So with that in mind, this is here for you all's approval to move to legislative.
Most of the discussion.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
So we wrote this up just in case they would want to.
They've already agreed, preemptively, they've agreed to give us ownership so that we can maintain the facility.
But they're gonna continue the MOE?
Yes, that's the only thing they've been doing.
Oh, okay.
I want to say it's around $50,000.
$50,000 a year, I believe it is, yeah.
I thought that was the point of difference, but that was the very part.
No, because we're absorbing all the costs of the maintenance, and it really does make taking care of the building a lot easier because it's one person in the county that's going to coordinate all these repairs and everything.
Mr. Chairman.
Where did they get the, I'm curious, where did they get the notion that if it is, what did you say, sold
A reverter that if it discontinued being used as a library,
where did they get the idea that then we want 50% of it?
because that's what it is now. They just want to go back to the ownership as it is today.
So even if we had 50 years taking care of it and so forth, this
could potentially happen, yes. And that was an ask of theirs. I put it in there, if the rebuttal from this committee or any other committee is to tell them no, I will do that.
What figure out why we want that. Because 50 years from now, books aren't even a thing anymore. It's all digital. Yeah, I mean, just space age, you know. Why would they want their
For
house?
quite some time, and I can't explain to you why they do a lot of things they do, so.
Well, like, how much do they have in the building and land and property now?
It was conveyed as a gift. The problem we run into, and the reason we wanted to get this ownership this way is, the argument was about who's gonna cover what part of cost of what. And I believe the comptroller came down in one report and said that only one entity could carry it on its books for insurance purposes, and we were already kiting the insurance. So, as all of the pieces started coming together on this, we were already investing so much into the building and having to cover the building insurance-wise, that it would just be better off to try to get sole ownership of the building.
Well, I don't see it ever not being a library. There's too many things
That's
going on out
y'all's
there.
choice,
Yeah.
that's not,
I'm fine with it.
Motion to approve, quit claim deed and send it to legislative.
Second.
With the converted clause.
Can you,
They can discuss that in legislative. You can talk about it there. Yes, sir, I do.
hesitancy on that? Can you speak to that? What's your hesitancy on that? Can you speak to a little bit about what your hesitancy
The
is?
property was donated, I think, by the Haven, I believe, but the property was donated, and then fundraisers were done for the remainder of the library, is my understanding. So, I don't know if there's a big monetary involvement there, but, we'll be spending all of this money on the library over a period of time. I would prefer, if I was a member, voting member of this committee, that it not be, that it would be approved without that clause.
I don't think it'll ever come into play, that's why I went ahead and made the motion.
Can I make an amendment to the motion to take off the reverse clause?
I'll just include that. If that'll save some time, that's fine.
Okay, so, so pass it on to legislative without
the
reverting.
recommendation to remove the reverted clause.
Okay. That's the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion adjourned.
No, we got one more item.
Oh, that's right.
I've got one thing that I didn't get on, the cameras are not working in the archive building.
How long is that?
I don't know, but I just found out about it tonight. If I ever knew about it, I don't remember that I knew about it, so,
Cameras in the archive building,
cameras in the archive building are not working.
security cameras in there?
Yeah, they're security cameras. So, can we make a motion to pass?
Is that on the agenda?
No, it's not.
Oh.
You know, I just found out about it right before the meeting. So I would like to pass, I can't believe it's a big expenditure to get it fixed or replaced, to move it up to budget committee. Could I entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to add it to the agenda
Second.
and approve it, and group can approve the last one too. I'm gonna do it all of it.
Oh, the drawings.
Yes.
That's right, G.
I missed
Oh, okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I would like to just, the EMA thing separate. I would like to separate that.
Okay,
So
so,
that request an amendment to separate the,
okay, so can we do the motion on the cameras for archive?
Mr. Moss is a second.
Okay, we accept that. Okay, so we'll move that to budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now finally, item G. Sorry, I forgot about
so
that.
that would have been item H if we added it to the.
Yeah, so we did H before G. So, all right.
Mr. Chairman, just to save time and get it moving, I'll make a motion to approve it, and then we can discuss it afterwards.
Okay,
Second that motion.
okay, we have a
You took
motion.
9G, right?
Yeah, 9G. We have a motion to approve, we have a second. Okay, discussion.
I mean, we have the sheet. I mean, I would like to,
Yeah, that's what,
I know that,
Ms. Miller, could you show what the sheet was?
The EMA capital request.
Okay.
So there were some things that were sent back last Thursday on budget hearing, and several things were sent to general ops, but the agenda was already complete, so they did not get on here.
Right.
So I think, Mr. Wagner had reached out and wanted to know if we could discuss this tonight. So I know that there were three things. There was the drones, the outboard forward motors, and then a truck request. I think that the question was, for the truck request during the budget hearings was how many miles was on the truck, why did it need to be replaced? So I think there's no mileage on here, but I think there's a pretty good explanation. It looks like it broke down and.
The mileage is, I was driving and I didn't write it down, so it was, if I'm rounding, it was like $90,000.
Miles.
90,000 miles, sorry, that's what it meant. 90,000 miles, and it broke down while it was pulling the trailer, and it is fixed right now, but it's 14 years old, 16 years old, and he would like to have something that is reliable, and
I think it says,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I didn't have the floor, so I didn't make sure.
You got,
I think that it's a heavy duty, like it hauls a lot of heavy duty stuff, so I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary. So my question is, I know that, Commissioner Harrison made a motion, but this is part of a capital request for next budget cycle. So I'm not really sure if they budget send it to us, but it hasn't come to, I'm not real sure.
My motion is approved to send it back to budget.
because they sent it to us to see if we approve
to
it.
clarify.
Okay, that's it. So it's just for clarification.
Yeah, and so, in reading this, they have 4 drones currently, and they're asking for 2 more, $22,000 apiece. I don't even know what we use drones for.
Searching for missing people.
Yeah,
Is it specifically that?
it's
Well,
everything.
suspects running loose in the woods.
I mean, if there was a fire,
we
we,
have infrared on them. It's using for all kinds of stuff.
well, it seems like it probably saves in manpower, among other things. So it seems like it would be a good expenditure. I don't know how many we need.
2 more.
Commissioner Jones.
This is hard because this is where it gets in the gray areas of needs versus wants. I know just from being at the case of the missing teenager Sebastian, they were looking for, with drones. They had all kinds of volunteers out there with different companies of drones that were volunteering time. It seemed like there was no shortage of drones or fixed wing or helicopters searching the skies. And if these are replacement drones because something got broken, then okay, but if it's just we want more, I wonder if it's a necessity. So, needs versus wants.
Well,
I would expect somebody here to prove that case before you just write.
Mr. Wagner would be here, except he's unavailable with sinus infection. That's why he's not here.
So, I would like to hear from him on that, but I don't know timing wise, if the budget's gonna get approved before this gets approved,
Well,
I ain't talking about it right now. Why was this not put on our agenda prior?
Because it was just Thursday,
It's just on our Thursday.
sorry.
No.
It was just during our budget hearings on Thursday where it got kicked back. So there's a whole list of capital projects that got pushed that are coming to us next month. And this was one of them that he asked if we would review it now.
So the money will already be in his budget to do it if they approve the budget? Or we have to do this because there's line item on the budget, hearing, the hearings that are going on right now won't include it if we don't, which is.
What was this?
That was my question.
Was this for next
It's already
week's
there,
budget?
then
Yes.
Or was it this for immediate?
This is for This was in the budget hearing for next year's budget.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have a list of capital projects that you go through and you approve or you
Right.
cut. This one happened to get cut. He's asking us to re-review it, to submit back to budget.
Okay.
That's all it's done, because the budget for this cycle has not been approved.
Yeah. Well, and he was talking about outboard motors, but I don't even,
He just wants to remove those.
oh, he wants to remove them.
Yes.
He did remove them?
Yes, he did.
So, I mean, I had a question about those.
Well, they're not here, so you don't need to.
Well, that means there's a boat still laying around with no motors on it, and that boat was replaced 3 years ago. Why is it sitting there broken for 3 years?
I don't know, I don't know, maybe he could fix the outboard motors, I don't know.
No, that was already debated in length
Okay,
3 years ago. That's why we had to spend $125,000 on the boat.
well, that's not on this, so sounds like everybody wants to get in the truck. There's question on the drones. Does somebody want to, try an amendment to Mr. Harrison's, motion to approve and push on to, back to budget, or,
So leave it as is, get it to budget, and then if there's any more questions there, let it hash out there. We've got eight pilots with 4 drones.
well, and it can always be amended in budget.
Then we're looking to just kind of even the.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Are there any other questions? All in favor? Opposed?
To be clear, both the truck and the drones are going to
Yes.
budget.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Let's go home.